This is the Uncommon Success Podcast, where we explore topics about success and dive into the stories of leaders who found success along the way.
And success isn't easy. It takes some grit, a little bit of luck, and a whole lot of patience.
We know that success comes in many shapes and sizes, and we're exploring them all.
So get ready for a journey through the remarkable stories of individuals who have faced challenges head on and learned many lessons along the way.
From business moguls to artists, educators to industry leaders, entrepreneurs to athletes. If it's an uncommon success story, we'll cover it.
The Uncommon Success Podcast. Real stories, real people, real success.
This episode is brought to you by B Lane Printed Apparel. Are you looking for great custom apparel that will set your organization apart from everyone else? You need B Lane Printed Apparel, where passion meets quality. At B Lane, they go beyond just printing. They bring your brand to life. From eye-catching hats to shirts that redefine comfort, they've got it all covered. Quality materials, quality water-based inks, quality service, because you deserve the best. Visit belane.com now and let your imagination run wild. That's BEALANE.com. Don't just wear apparel, wear quality. Your journey begins at belane.com.
Welcome to episode number 6 of the Uncommon Success Podcast.
Yes, welcome to our community. We're glad that you're tuning in today. I'm your host, Andy Coates, and I am joined by a very special guest host with us today. This is my friend of the podcast, friend of mine and my wife, Christy's. This is Shana Overton, who's joining us today as a guest co-host. We fired Brinley for the Taylor Swift comments, Yeah. So now Shana is in the house with us, at least for this week. We're going to try you out. This is a test run. We'll see how it goes. And if Brinley comes begging, we may let her join us again.
Yeah, well, I tried to look up some dad jokes to try to get on her level, but I can't compete with her.
Didn't work.
Just didn't work out for me.
She is one of a kind. Well, before we jump into the podcast too much, I do want to introduce our guest who is with us today. This is Paul Reiser, formerly known as the Sonic Guy, and now he is the retired Sonic Guy.
That's right. That's right.
Retirement treating you okay?
Pulled me out of retirement, probably just for one show. If Brinley only made it 6, there's no way. I probably won't make it 1.
I mean, like for guests, it's a one and done.
Okay.
So if you do really well, then we'll at least give you props. But if not, the episode may not even air. So if you see this on Thursday, you did okay.
Awesome.
And we film 4 of these a week, and we just see which one works.
Okay. Well, I'll be waiting with bated breath. I don't know what that means, but that's what I'll be waiting with, I guess. It's an old phrase. But I hope I make it.
Yeah, we'll see. But,
well, we're glad you're on the show, and we're excited
Thanks.
to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and before we do jump into your story.
Shana.
Yeah, Shana, first time, look at her already making me look bad over here. We're supposed to be together against the guest,
You'll get a lot of guests that way.
Yeah, that's how you lose guests. That's why it's one and done, not because of our choice, because of their choice.
They won't come back.
They won't come back.
I got it.
Before we do jump into your story, Paul, we are eager to hear a little about your journey, but this week is a busy week in the world. As we're filming this, today is Super Bowl Sunday while we're filming this, so today's the Super Bowl. Mardi Gras is this week for those of us who are listening in Louisiana, which we found out we have an international audience, people watching in like Australia.
Wow.
So pretty neat to find out we have these listening and watching from all over the world. So they might not know what Mardi Gras is.
Congratulations.
But, we actually have a parade that's happening right down the street from my house.
It was
this
hard to
afternoon.
park in front of your house today, actually.
Hard to even get here.
Yeah.
That's where Brinley actually is. So if you want to harass her, she's at a parade with her family right now, which is great. And if you recall in the podcast last week, she mentioned she was at a parade last weekend too. So I guess if there's ever parades,
She's out.
We lose Brinley. But it's also Valentine's Day is happening this week. Mm-hmm. And last week, just as one of you guys were here, we did a poll that we threw up on our social media to find out, would people be more interested in Super Bowl tickets or Taylor Swift tickets? And as you can possibly imagine, by a large majority, most people said they would prefer Super Bowl tickets, which was very encouraging to me because last week I was kind of... The whole room was against me and me wanting Super Bowl tickets. Everyone else wanted Taylor Swift tickets. But even our technical director was Stephen Posey was wanting
Right.
Taylor Swift tickets. You know?
Well, Posey was probably thinking about the resale value. So
Probably so.
more for a Swiftie ticket than a Super Bowl ticket
That's
right now.
really nice of you to say, but it was more he wanted to be on the front row of the Taylor
front
Swift.
row tickets?
Yeah, front row
well,
tickets.
She didn't say
Yeah,
that. Let me
and-
change my vote.
And I mean, he has a Taylor Swift shirt on as we speak, just as he's excited. He knows it's the 49ers. He knows it's the Chiefs, but he's got a Taylor Swift shirt on.
You go, Posey.
He's hoping that she'll show up at the halftime and get proposed to. I mean, it's the only reason he's going to watch the game is hoping that Kelsey proposes today.
Yeah, I think he's going to have other things on his mind, but maybe not.
It's just the biggest game of the year. You know, I'm sure proposing is not.
It's his third time, though.
That's true. That's true.
So
Okay, let's get to the business thing. There's enough of this.
Well, hang on. Y'all mentioned Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Do y'all do anything with your wives for Valentine's Day?
So Christy she don't like spending money, and two, she's not a big fan of just being out in crazy wild crowds and stuff, and so we typically steer clear of the crowds for Valentine's Day. So we'll probably stay in. If we go get something to eat, we're going to go early and eat with the senior citizens. We'll be the only people that don't get a discount, just so we don't have to deal with the crowds. And
I'll get a discount. I get 58-cent coffee at McDonald's now.
Oh,
I
wow.
love it.
Nice.
I'm loving it.
What about for you, man? You guys, y'all.
I really hate crowds.
Yeah.
So, and my wife tells me I make an excellent steak. So I'm going to be cooking steak, wine. I don't know how many people that's going to lose from your podcast, but I'm going to be drinking it.
Well, they're not drinking it, so
That's right. And not even flowers. Flowers are too expensive that week.
Yeah,
I
that's
got them
true.
last week. But yeah, dinner at home, nice, quiet, maybe a little fire, all that good stuff.
Nice. About Jake, is he taking you
really
somewhere?
Come on, Shana.
We
Make us look
don't
bad.
really do Valentine's Day. We just
Oh,
yeah,
my wife
I don't know.
decorates. It's a beautiful day. I better have some Valentines and some notes. We're just not going out.
Yeah,
But that doesn't even, that's not a thing for you? You're like
not really.
sentimental
I mean,
about
we
it?
have before, but not really. We just our anniversary's in May, and so we'll normally do something for that. But we're just not real big. Valentine's
Christy's
people.
birthday is in January, and it takes all of my energy to remember my anniversary in December and her
Yes.
birthday in January. So by February, I feel like I'm relieved a little bit, and then all of a sudden
Exactly.
Valentine's Day is here.
You look
It's like,
exhausted. I wondered why.
oh
but now
man,
I
that's
know.
why. Because it's just the
It's too
busyness
much.
of just trying to remember those days. Christmas happened in there, But-
And you had to fire Brindley. So
and
on
then
top of
and
that-
then Brindley got fired. So, well, before we jump into this topic, Shana, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Paul?
Sure, love to. For 20 years, Paul was president of the Reiser Group Sonic Management Company, which owned and operated 38 Sonic drive-in restaurants across 4 states. In 2021, he and his partner sold the entire business, ending his family's 45-year run with the iconic restaurant brand. Look, although he was in the Sonic business for over 40 years, he did not know the 2 guys from the TV commercials, and he had nothing to do with them getting fired. He is very active in the Shreveport-Bossier community, serving on numerous committees that contribute to economic growth in the area, including the Committee of 100 and the LSUS School of Business Advisory Board. Paul is a co-host for the local podcast, Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier, produced in cooperation with the Committee of 100 and KTBS Channel 3. He also has a YouTube channel called The Real Paul Reiser, which goes behind the scenes of life as an entrepreneur. He's been married for 35 years to his amazing wife, Stacy. They have 2 great kids who they're very proud of and love to hang out with. They attend the Simple Church in Bossier, where Paul serves on the directional leadership team and in the media department. Please welcome the artist formerly known as the Sonic Guy, Paul Reiser.
Awesome.
me.
That's
Posey,
you.
you got the fanfare going? You got the
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, the behind-the-scenes cheering that's happening.
That is really strange to look at someone just reading that. Like,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So retirement now, huh?
Yeah.
How's retirement? Like, is that
Great.
Do you feel like you're more busy than
Fantastic.
ever, or is
you
it?
know, I don't know how I got anything done when I was working.
Yeah,
Because it seems like I just don't ever get caught up.
yeah,
But I'm having a great time.
awesome. Well, one of the things that was really inspiring to us as we were looking for guests for the podcast that really caught our attention was your website, The Business Reel, and that's REAL, and how you've shifted now from being in the business world into really trying to just help others who are going down that same path and journey. So I would like to tell our audience a little bit about businessreel.com. This is the passion project of our guest today, Paul Reiser. On his site, they go behind the scenes with entrepreneurs to get the real story on the challenges and triumphs of owning a business. Maybe you're considering starting your business. Well, before you jump in head first, hop on over to businessreel.com to check out this incredible resource for you. They have a video library that'll be very helpful for you, a newsletter you can sign up for to stay up to date on business concepts and principles, and some worksheets to help you out on your business leadership journey. That's BUSINESSREAL.com. And one of the taglines they have that I love that anyone can start a business, but not everyone should. Find out if you have what it takes and check them out today.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, this is episode 6 on financial literacy for success, and we have the expert and the pro here with us, genius on all things money, right?
Are you looking at me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we brought you on. Yeah. We were told you were the expert on everything financial. So if people have any kind of financial advice, if they're looking to invest their money, to call you.
That's
call
right.
Paul
Caller one. Call in.
Just don't give out that phone number, right?
Oh, the lines are quiet, I see. I don't know. I guess I've got a little experience.
Yeah. Well, today, the reality is we're not looking at discussing, we're not diving into terminology. We're not going to jump into all the details, but because everyone's situation is different. What we're hoping to help people with is the importance of that financial literacy foundation or background. And so just hearing from your story a little bit, some things that have helped you along the way, that kind of stuff. We're not expecting you to give all the financial advice for everybody everywhere today, but more just helping in general from your story and the importance of that for others.
Absolutely. Glad to do it.
Well, but before we do dive into that, I want to talk a little bit. It is Valentine's Day this week. That's happening. Hasn't happened for us yet. By the time you're listening to this podcast, it has already happened. And I read some statistics I want to share with you guys when it comes to financial literacy with Valentine's Day. Some financial, what I would probably call as maybe mistakes, but they were startling statistics for me. You ready for this? Valentine's Day, just Valentine's Day, it's expected that the United States will spend on Valentine's related items, meals, and gifts $18.6 billion.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
a lot of money.
I think they say $5 billion would solve the water problem in Africa.
And we're spending
$18 billion on
4
candy.
times that on candy, flowers, everything will be gone tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to have my wife listen to this podcast. She doesn't need to hear.
Yeah.
They are saying that it will be on dining out, that there's roughly about $10 billion spent on dining out, $3 billion on candy, $3 billion on romantic getaways, just under $2 billion on flowers, $1.6 billion on jewelry, and that 1.6 comes only from 4% of the people when they buy gifts are buying jewelry. So that's a lot of money going out. Now, I hope my wife doesn't listen to this because, babe, they do not spend this kind of money on this. I'm just reading this. It's a hypothetical thing. So they actually say on here that the best husbands don't do all that stuff.
Yeah,
That's right. Well, she does need to listen then.
I'm just reading. Yes, please listen to this. So don't be mad.
Because they know that the number one thing couples fight about is money.
It's money.
And the lack of it when the bill comes in next month from Valentine's Day.
Yep. So there'll be a fight, a credit card.
But it is so romantic.
Yeah.
Cook something, make one. Pull out the crayons and make a Valentine, and you will score so many more points than if you go by, Kroger on your way home and buy a balloon and a
plant.
stuffed animal.
Yeah. Stuffed animal is going to get.
Those are good too.
Right.
But you can do that all year round. Not Valentine's Day.
Interesting fact here. Americans spend $367 million on Valentine's Day gifts for their pets. For their pets.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the $18 billion, I guess I could wrap my head around, but, nearly $4 million on Valentine's Day gifts for pets is just wild to me. So obviously there is a financial misunderstanding of how to best utilize funding. So as we dive into your story a little bit here, we want to hear kind of from your journey, what has been some of the helpful things, and we have several questions we want to ask you as we hear your story. and just kind of see from the framework of realizing there are a lot of people out there who maybe they're fearful of jumping into business because they don't understand how money works, or maybe they've jumped in and they realize the biggest problem was they didn't know
Right.
how money works. So, Shane, why don't you kick us off with our first question for Paul?
Yeah. So, can you share your journey of building and eventually selling 38 Sonic fast food restaurants, and what motivated you to enter the franchise business?
Yeah, it's 45 years. I'll give it to you in 2 minutes.
All right, here we go.
We got into it actually because the reason we got into the business is because my dad always wanted to be in business.
Okay.
So my dad, very, very, very poor growing up. He was number 7 of 8 kids, grapes of wrath poor, born in a one-room house on the couch, And he figured the way I'm going to get out of this is I want to start a business. So he was a kid that was selling candy out of his locker between classes. Famously, during lunch, his dad would give him a quarter for lunch every day.
Yeah.
And he would take the quarter, and he made a deal with the local restaurant. So he would get off campus at lunch, go down the street, eat lunch for free, and wash dishes, put the quarter in his pocket.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
You're like, well, if he was so smart, why was he walking and not driving? Well, 1, he didn't have a car, and 2, he was 8 years old when he did that.
Oh, wow.
So my dad's name's Merlin. Merlin was a gangster from birth. So
It wasn't like he was 16, 17 years
no,
old.
it wasn't like,
This is
yeah,
an
he's like,
8-year-old.
I figure I can keep this quarter. So it's definitely in his DNA.
Yeah.
And spent his whole life trying to figure out how to get into business. So finally got opportunity to get into the Sonic business, and because he was a bread man, sold bread.
Okay.
And a lot of bread men in the old days, they'd go in the back of these old days in the 60s.
Yeah.
They'd go in the back of these Sonics, and they're seeing how busy they were, how much bread they were selling. So and they're used to working early, long hours on their feet all day. Bread men made great Sonic operators.
Yeah.
So he got into the Sonic business, and the opportunity was in Monroe, Louisiana. So we moved from Kansas to Monroe, Louisiana. So I'm pulling for Kansas City tonight because
Okay.
I'm a Kansas
Nice.
native. But he moved the whole family kicking and screaming to Monroe, Louisiana to get into the Sonic business.
Yeah.
And so I grew up literally inside of a Sonic. We were the family, where the mom and dad work all the time, and I would sleep they'd pull the car up to a stall where they could see me out there. I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so I was sleeping in the car, and then I'm the youngest of 5, but I was
Okay.
car hopping when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
Totally illegal. I
Yeah.
know.
Wow.
Don't worry about it any. I was
Yeah.
cute. I got good tips. So I learned the value of $1.
You made more than all the rest of those other car hops, didn't you?
That's right.
I did pretty good in tips.
Yeah.
Dad didn't pay me anything. You got a roof over your head, kid.
Yeah. You
So
had to do well in tips.
We grew up
Yeah.
that way. My whole life was I want to get out of the Sonic business, but I always worked in it.
Yeah.
So, so I grew up to get out of it. Got my degree in video production. The night of my finals, we were celebrating, and my wife says, "Guess what? We're going to have a baby." So I'm like, "Oh, I got to get a real job tomorrow." Well, I know a
Wow.
place where I can make good money. I'm pretty good at flipping hamburgers.
Yeah.
So I went back into the family business.
Okay.
And so actually, you say, what got you into the business? Necessity. I needed to make more money. And Dad was doing pretty well at that time. They had like 6 or 7 Sonics.
Okay.
And I said, Dad, I want to get back in the business. I got a baby coming. And he said, I know just where I'm going to put you, my worst Sonic. So Bossier City, hadn't made money in years. He had bought it cheap. And there's a reason you buy a business cheap, because it was terrible.
Yeah.
And so I came in, and I just, I had to fix it. So we fixed it with financial literacy and, all the
Yeah.
things my dad taught me growing up. Turned that store around, and I said, I want to buy into it. So I bought into that one. My sisters started marrying really smart guys.
Yeah.
And those guys started getting into the business, and we formed a management company. So about 2001, we formed a management company, and we were able to take my dad's business of 13 Sonics at that time to 38 Sonics in the next 10 years.
Wow. How long did it take him to get to his 13?
So it took him about 20 years to get to 13.
Okay.
And 5 of those were owned by his kids and
Yeah.
partners. And then when we said, let's turn a management company into this thing,
Yeah.
let's all work together. And so I had a brother-in-law who had an MBA, and he was our IT guy and our CFO. And then another couple of brother-in-laws that were into growing the business, running the restaurant. And I had been running restaurants forever, so we just kind of muscled it up.
Yeah.
And then I was good at communicating with everybody, because you have 5 really distinct different personalities, and they
Right.
couldn't all get along, but I could get along with all of them.
Yeah.
And I had formed good relationships with Sonic Corporate by that time, and they were just like, Paul, you be the president. I'm like, all right, I'll do it.
Thanks.
So youngest of 5, it had some interesting issues, because I had by the end of it, 38 Sonics, I had 1,200 employees, but my 5 partners, there's no way that I could tell them what to do. So it always had to be cooperation and coming together with a plan.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what the question was, but boy, I'm exhausted talking about it. No wonder I retired.
So kind of transitioning. So, I mean, you guys went through all that, end up selling off the entire business. So walk us through, like, why did you sell off the franchise?
Well, the good thing is when you're growing a business, especially franchise, that's the franchisor's dream, to find a franchisee who will go out and build stores. So one year we built 3 stores in 1 year. We were really cranking out stores, very popular. And they would come and visit come to our office. So one time the president of Sonic, the CEO of Sonic, the vice president of operations, they all came to our office to talk to us and tell us how we were doing according to their statistics. And then they said, what's your big bust theory? What's your big bust plan? I'm like, what the heck's a big bust plan? They said, well, if Paul gets hit by a bus, what are y'all going to do? If Bob gets hit by a bus, what are you going to do? And we said, I don't know. So that was probably 15 years before we sold. And we said, we need to make sure we have a flat organization that can run without us. So we really started working on bringing in, really professional management, started giving a lot of authority to our supervisors, regional supervisors. And so we're like, we need to be looking at a plan. We either need to hand it off to our kids or we need to be able to sell it at some point. So I tell people now, start planning to sell from day one, because we were, 20 years in before we thought, well, what happens?
Oh, yeah, because there's all kinds of things you don't think about when you're having to prepare it to sell.
Yeah, you're just trying to grow the thing, So we started looking at valuations, and historically, a regular business is going to sell from 2 to 5 times net earnings.
Yeah.
So whatever you make at the end of the year, if you make $100,000, you can sell it for, 200 to what's 10, 200 to $1 million.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the way it went. There were years where it was bad, where you couldn't give a Sonic away in 2008.
Yeah.
And there were years that they were worth 5.5 times earnings because they were killing it. Well, all of a sudden, we started looking into the valuations, and we realized, because if you remember back in 2019, there was a whole, stock market was through the roof. Interest rates were, you could earn like 0.07% in an account.
Yeah.
So there was all these money market people who were like, we've got to find a place to put our money. And they figured out you could buy mid-sized businesses with a long, consistent income with sales increases, which we had had for 20 years straight.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we were like very popular. And we said, this thing is very valuable, more valuable than it had ever been because of all that money dying to buy a business.
Yeah.
And so we went to market. We've hired a broker. And it was just an unprecedented time for valuations to sell a Sonic.
It just made sense for you.
I mean,
guys.
if we were all in our 30s, we were like, no way we would have done it. But they are all, I'm the youngest. You can imagine how old they are.
Yeah.
So
you won't even drop that, right?
I did not want to run this thing by myself.
Right.
So so it's just a combination of timing and age.
Yeah.
And all of our grandkids, out of 20 grandkids, there was only one kid that wanted to run it. And so they saw this gray hair.
Yeah.
This hair looked good back in. But anyway, so we decided, it's just a great time to sell it. So timing is everything. You have to be set. You have to have yourself set in a situation where you can sell.
Right.
Because if it was dependent on us to run it, nobody would have wanted to buy it.
Right.
And we're like, you don't need us. We got great locations, great people. I'm the last thing you need. So they bought it.
Yeah. So you sell it, go into retirement, and most people would probably say, hey, let's just, do whatever we want to do, travel, play, whatever that looks like, now that you've sold off the business. But you transition in kind of to the world of becoming that influence in social media, trying to make a difference and impact. So how did that shift come about where you could have just said, hey, I want to go snow skiing, I want to whatever, but now
I've done that.
it's but now it's spending some time to pour back in. What happened for you there? Where did that shift come about?
Well, let's see. I'm a pretty young guy.
Yeah.
I was 54 when we sold everything.
Okay.
All my brothers and sisters, they're like, we're out,
Yeah.
But they're, I have a brother who's really active in the stock market, but the rest of them are just like, hey, we're out, which I get it,
Yeah.
Me, I just have a lot of fun. Like say, you have that feeling like you want to give something back. So pretty active at our church. But I also want to just run one more business before I take, I relax completely. So,
Yeah.
but I have. I mean, we went to France for a couple of weeks. We go see our kids in Chicago and Athens. We've traveled. We've been to the beach. We've been a lot of places, and I'll continue to do that, which
Yeah.
is why my business is growing so slow.
Yeah.
But I definitely do feel it's incumbent on people who are successful, who much is given, to give back, and definitely want to help out. A lot of people ask.
Yeah.
So
It's good.
just let's do something that I enjoy. Now the good news is now I have no employees. I love employees, love them,
Yeah.
but I have no stress.
That's good.
So I just get to do what I want. Like when the big snowstorm came through a couple of weeks ago, I didn't have to worry about
Yeah.
telling who to stay open, who to close. I didn't have to worry if the canopies were collapsing or the roofs were collapsing or the freezers were going out. So it's a very nice way to be
Right.
where I'm at now. And that's a great thing about the internet too. It's
Do it from anywhere.
yeah.
So kind of on that same note, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had whenever you were still owning all your restaurants, and how did you overcome those?
There's a million. There's a challenge every single day. Matter of fact, when COVID came along and, we didn't know if we were going to be able to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
Sales started falling immediately. Immediately everyone's going to the grocery store.
Right.
Employees were afraid to come to work. My dad called me and he's like, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do, Slick?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Dad," I act like I'm really calm. I said, "Dad, in the last 40 years, has there ever been a time when we haven't had a catastrophe that we were dealing with?" He's like, "No, I guess not." And I said, "What's the last one?" He's like, I don't even remember." We'll just get through it. We'll just do what we do, and we'll just move through it.
Yeah.
So there's always something that happens.
Yeah.
Basically, you ask, how do we get through it? You try to get through it by preparing for it ahead of time, not knowing what it is. So you always want to have your finances in order, like we talk about, to the best of your ability. You want to have your good people in order to the best of your ability. And then when something happens, you say, what can I do to address this? Who can I put in charge of what? And then once everything's done, then you have to just move on.
Yeah.
You can't sit there. My brother has a great phrase. He says, "Don't cook with the corn dog." Now let me tell you what that means.
Okay.
The longest thing to cook in a Sonic restaurant is a corn dog.
Okay.
It takes 5 minutes. If you don't have one thawed out properly, it takes at least 5 minutes to cook a corn dog from frozen. And you want that order to go out in 2.5 minutes. And inevitably, in the middle of a rush, when everything's out and you need this order and it's already 5 minutes old, and someone says, "What do I need? A corn dog?" I forgot to drop the corn dog. And you drop the corn dog in the grease, and what do? You just sit there and you just watch it, and you shake the basket,
Thinking
and
that's
you just watch the corn dog. You're sitting there and you're cooking with the corn dog, and nothing else gets done because all you're worried about is that stupid corn dog. Once the corn dog's in the grease, you hit the timer and you go on and handle something else. Come back in 5 minutes, and that's just the way with every problem you have. Do everything you can. Well, is this everything I can do? And then once it's everything you can do, you've got to relax your mind and move to the next thing.
Yeah.
Don't get bogged down in that one thing.
That's good. So, kind of on that line, you guys, 40-something years in the Sonic industry, you've
a lot of preservatives.
Yeah, shifted into more the corporate mode. So now give us all. No, I'm just kidding. You've shifted into corporate, where you weren't just working at a restaurant, but multiple restaurants. And so the business side of that, I guess you weren't Sonic corporate, but you created your own little corporation,
Right.
and leveraging your experiences that you've learned along the way. Now, as you're in starting your business of the online influencing, leveraging your experience, how has that translated for you? Like, you've 40-something years of experience, and now you're wanting to inspire others along the way. For you, what's the big drive, I guess, of giving back to others? Like, is it you have a lot of knowledge you want to share? What's the big motivation, I guess?
Well, the whole time I ran these businesses, I had manager meetings, assistant manager meetings every month.
Yeah.
We'd have one here, we'd go to Alabama, we'd have it there. One day we'd have a manager meeting, the next day we'd have assistant manager, because I see people with so much potential, and they can do it. I promise you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's always kind of been my thing. I see somebody else do it. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I see people that are so roadblocked in their own mind. They're like, I just don't think I can because I don't understand money, or I don't have connections. You don't understand. I don't have, don't have a silver spoon in my mouth. I'm like, my dad, you don't know where we came from,
Yeah.
So I just want people to have the opportunity to do the most they can do, because people can do so much more than they think they can do. They get in their own way. They let excuses bring them down. They let other people bring them down. So I just love to encourage people, inspire people, and see people do the most they can do, because we can do so much more than we think we can do.
Yeah, kind of tearing down that wall of whatever the wall may be for other people, saying, you can do it. I was sleeping in the car while my parents were running this thing.
That's right.
And
that's the best thing, to see my dad do it, because, when you see one of these great American success stories in a movie, they go from birth to success in 2 hours.
Right.
Oh, well, that was great. I can do that. But I got to see it happen over 40 years.
Right.
So I know how long it takes and how hard it is. And, really, when you get to be my age, 10 years is nothing.
Right.
It's something. But, people just don't understand the time that it takes. So I got to see that it happens. It can happen over and over. And then I also got to see how hard it is and how long it takes. And a lot of people don't have that. They think it's going to happen too quickly.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So since we're kind of talking about financial literacy, if you could just talk a little bit about how that came into play with managing your business, and just how it played a role in your overall success of kind of understanding finances.
Mm-hmm. Well, so, you say financial literacy and people go, ooh, you're going to get a lot of people clicking off right now. That sounds hard.
Yeah.
So you're an author. You're a financial author, Andy, and a children's author. But how do you describe financial literacy?
I would say it's the, I guess, foundation of information about money. So I have a book that I wrote that we kind of give a lot of those foundational principles of what they don't teach you in school. So it's the education of money would be kind of my explanation of what that means. Yeah.
Well, I was kind of breaking it down when you said, look, we want to talk about financial literacy. And if you look at literacy just means the ability to read and write a language, or even understand a language. And I think a lot of people think of finances as some really difficult foreign language that I can't understand. It's just too hard. But it's really not. Yeah. It's really simple. But financial literacy and these terms make people, afraid of it.
Right.
And people are so afraid of money because you can't talk about money. We didn't talk about money when I grew up. But I think, the very basics of financial literacy, and then people are going to hate this, you spend less than you make. So you start off, spend less than you make. No matter how little you make, you've got to spend less.
Right.
And nobody wants to do that. But what it means, you have to forgo some things sometimes. But 50% of the world lives on less than $2 a day.
Yeah.
So, if you can live on that, you're not living large, but you
Right.
can exist. So you really got to lower your standards.
Yeah.
But to understand that financial literacy is simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
So first, spend less than you make. And second, take the extra and invest it. And people say, well, investing is so hard, or people want to invest really fast. I have young people that say, oh, Mr. Paul, can I take you to lunch? I want to talk about investing. And, they're reading Wall Street Bets, and they want to put some money in GameStop or whatever it was everybody was selling short on, and squeeze that thing.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So for me, financial literacy, again, you got to spend less now. Doesn't mean you have to spend less forever.
Yeah.
I can take all my kids and family and friends. I can take a lot of people to dinner right now and not worry about it.
Right.
And that's not to brag. That's just to say, when you start off, though, I couldn't take myself to dinner.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wasn't going to spend less than I made. Yeah. Okay, so there's a ton of people you can listen to. You listen to Dave Ramsey, but he's got his shtick. He's like, never use a credit card. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
And then this new guy, I want you to be rich.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
But he's got his stick too. He kind of pushes things. So you got to look at these things and understand what relates to you. But definitely everybody, we talked about at the beginning of the Valentines, more people fight about, more divorces happen over money than anything else. Is it important? I think that you're a Christian guy. You got some biblical principles. I think they talk about money is talked about more in the Bible than any other more
time.
than heaven or hell or anything.
Right.
And most businesses fail because they run out of money. And if you want to get into business, I would say, man, it's awesome, because that's where we got most of our wealth. Even though my whole life, even when I was 18, I was putting a little money in the stock market. I have a nice nest egg that I saved over a lifetime of a little bit. But what's enabled me to retire early is being able to sell these businesses.
Yeah.
So I love business. I love growing business. It's harder than heck.
Right.
But financial literacy just means spend less than you make.
Yeah, really, it's simple.
And invest the
principles.
rest.
Right.
There's only a few terms. Like if you go to, you're talking about a language, okay?
Yeah.
If I go to Cancun, I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
But if I can say hola, gracias, and donde está baños, I mean, I can get the things I need. I can
Right.
point. And just those 3 words. But if you'll just learn save, equity, and compound interest,
Yeah.
you can go a long way with just those terms.
Right.
And then, once you get the basis down, then you start talking about, oh man, how do we, segregate this project so we can depreciate it and accelerate the depreciation, all these wonderful things that save you money in taxes.
Yeah.
You're a long way from that. Let's start with hola.
Yeah, people want the calculus of
Yeah.
of financial knowledge, and it's like reading, writing, and arithmetic. Get the base stuff down.
And we can talk about that. Let's say that we're going to talk about that in a minute, so people are like, oh, here they go again.
Right.
But anyway, I'm sorry. So what else do you want to ask?
So if you could go back to the beginning and give yourself a piece of financial advice when you were that young, driven entrepreneur at the very beginning, what would you go back and give yourself?
So do you think I'm not young anymore or not driven? What do you think I'm
Well,
or both?
man, look, I just have the notes that your wife sent us to share. That's all I can go with. But that early, I guess, were you in your 20s or so when you found out you're going to have a baby and you
Right.
out of necessity? What financial advice would you go back and give yourself back then?
Well, the good thing is I think I had a good basis of principles, and I
Yeah.
would say stick with it. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
Maybe could even be a little more aggressive, but basically, I mean, like I say, I very, very fortunate. My wife and I were both just so opposed to owing any money.
Yeah.
So, like the guy, the financial, I want you to be rich. He says, I want you to spend money on things you want to spend money on and save everything else. I like that as long as you have the money.
Right.
So, like, if you want to buy coffee, that's great, but you need to save your $5 out of your check so you can take that to get the $5 with cash, because if you're going to put it on a credit card, that's not smart. It's not
Right.
going to make you feel good next month.
Yeah.
But I really, the advice is stay the course for me, because I was very fortunate. We just did not spend money. We didn't spend money. We do now. Now, and personally, never had any debt except, a car that I would pay off as aggressively as I could, used cars, a house, pay off aggressively as I could, as quickly as I could. But everything else, furniture, we had I'm not, it's very interesting because you start talking like this and people are like, oh, it's not a sad story. My mind was, I want to grow this business.
Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't have time to, we slept on my wife's bedroom, high school bedroom furniture till, I built my second Sonic.
Yeah.
Because you need to never be, when you don't have debt, you're not, if you do have debt, you have freedom. You have the ability to pivot and move.
Yeah.
So when I built my first Sonic, I was like, oh, this is awesome. So we were very, very poor. We lived cheap, but I started getting some money. After about 3 years, I was starting to build my next Sonic. I was making $75,000, which was more money than I ever dreamed I'd have my hands on.
Yeah.
But we still lived like we were making $35,000.
Yeah.
And so when I built that second Sonic and my first Sonic tanked and the second Sonic didn't do well, my income literally went in half that next year.
Yeah.
And instead of having to file bankruptcy, we were like, well, we're used to living on $35,000.
Yeah.
So we were able to hunker down and turn both those stores around. So it's not something you have to do forever, but it's something most people I know have had to do. Just really don't owe money so that you have that freedom. But later on, it's awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just it's not.
It's not forever.
It's not forever. It's foregoing now so that later is everything you want.
It's my definition of discipline, being able to look past the pleasure of the moment to the seriousness of the future.
Yeah.
So if you can hold off just a minute, don't buy that now, you'll be able to buy a much nicer one later, cash.
Yeah. That's good.
That is good. So for aspiring entrepreneurs, how does understanding how money works impact their entire lives?
Well, it's as important as it is in business, it's just as important in your normal life.
Yeah.
Now, I borrowed millions and millions of dollars to grow the business.
Sure.
But because I knew the business could pay back that note, those loans. But personally, If you don't have debt, you're not going to fight near as much with your wife. If you don't have debt and you have an opportunity, you're going to be able to go take that opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's like, say, start with the very, very basics. I would say save a little money, learn how to put it away, start a little account. Is now a good time to go investing? Well, the market's the highest it's ever been right now. Friday's the highest the S&P has ever closed. Or the S&P has never closed that high. And people are going to say, well, it's too expensive to get in the market now. But, 3 months ago it was the lowest it's ever been, and people were like, "Oh, I can't get in the market now; it's crashing."
Right.
So you just
it's unstable.
You got to. I mean, past performance is no guarantee of future.
Sure.
And I'm not a financial analyst, and I don't even play one on YouTube. But
We'll take this moment to say
I told
Paul
my
Reiser.
wife, I told my kids, I told my niece, everyone. Well, my wife didn't care; she just said do whatever. But start an account. It takes a few days to start an account. It's pretty easy. Go to Fidelity or Charles Schwab or whoever's advertising your podcast.
Yeah.
And open it.
Right.
Start putting a little bit in an S&P 500 just to start.
Yeah.
That's what I would do personally.
Yeah.
A nice broad ETF. That's your financial education. And look up what is an ETF.
Homework assignment.
Homework
for our
assignment,
listeners.
or you can explain it. And start.
Yeah.
And once you start and you realize the earth did not come to an end, I didn't lose everything I had because I connected my checking account to a financial firm, and I put a little money in, and after a couple of months it actually grew, or maybe it dropped a little, but I didn't lose everything. You start to get a little confidence.
Right.
And once you do that, you can start to grow. And over time, you look back, the first $300 I put in the stock market when I was 18 is worth a whole lot of money right now.
Right.
So, but you got to start small, I think, and just start going.
Yeah.
That's all I got about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like now everyone wants the shortcut. They want the fast. I mean, you were in fast food for a long time. Everybody wants it right now.
That's right.
It don't matter that you guys put it out in 2.5 minutes. They want it in a minute and a half. And that same thing is true for people with money. It's like I'm going to go start a business. I'm going to become a millionaire, retiring by 30, and living the rest of my life, not having to do a thing, only what I wanted. It's like that sounds great, but that happens for fractions of people. Like that's not happening. And if it is, it's pure luck. You're not disciplining your way into that, and so your odds of that are like playing the lottery. And if you're counting on that,
Right.
that we would never give that financial advice.
Right.
But that's what people hope for. And
Well, I don't want to caution people away from business. I want to caution people about being careful to get into business. I love business.
Yeah.
It made the life for our entire family.
yeah,
But 8 out of 10 fail in the first 8 years. And there's a reason, you know. So just go in cautiously and carefully. Because I want this to be an encouraging podcast. I don't want it to
Right.
be the one where people are like, all those guys told me not to go into business. But I think we have that instant culture. You watch, there's this one Instagram or TikTok or something. And it's like it starts out showing this is what you think it's going to be, Instagram. And
Yeah.
they're in these beautiful places all over the world. And then there's like switches to this is what it really is. And it's just this huge crowd.
right.
And I'm like, that's what they're selling people is the dream.
Yeah.
But the reality is, inventory.
It's not as
Employees.
vibrant and
Yeah.
beautiful as you would hope.
It's
it would
great.
be.
It's cool to be there.
Right.
But it takes a minute.
So maybe there's someone who's watching or listening today, depending how they're viewing the podcast or listening to the podcast, and maybe they're interested in starting their own business. What should they think about before starting? Like, what is some just from your 40 plus years of experience in it? What are some things they should be thinking about before they just jump in?
Man, it's hard to give a concise. I will do my best to give a concise answer
Okay.
since this is your podcast and you're doing an excellent job. Just think about the fact that it is very, 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 very hard up front. And I know everybody says that, but it really is. Like I say, most fail, but it is doable. It's an exciting thing.
Yeah.
So think about the fact that there's going to be really bad days, and you got to remember the good days on the bad days.
Yeah.
But I would say before you get in, look very carefully at what it is you want to go into. If you want to go and work at a restaurant, like say, I want to start a big restaurant, but you have no experience in business or actual restaurant, but you're just like a really good cook,
Yeah.
go work at a restaurant for a while first.
Yeah.
Get a little experience. You make a little money, and you maybe if you decide you're not going to do it, you've saved yourself $2 million.
Right.
Understand that.
And maybe a decade of a headache.
Yeah. understand that if you get into a business, a big business, like say right now, there's no way I could build a Sonic for less than $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it cost $2 million to build Houghton, the last one we built.
Yeah.
But let's say it was an even $1 million. You get into it. If you, first of all, you got to put $200,000 down because no bank's going to let a new guy give them 100% financing.
Right.
So you got to come up with 20% down. And then if you're 3 years into it and you go out of business, you still have to pay off that note.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it can wreck you.
Right.
So tiptoe in, as far as, to make sure you like. Then once you like it, when you start going, you got to go and you got to go hard.
Yeah.
And know that for the first 5 years, don't even look up. You're going to miss every. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. For the first 5 years, I missed every Saturday fish fry.
Yeah.
I didn't go on vacations. I would maybe take off one day a month.
Yeah.
But then after 5 years, everyone's like, I want your job. I'm like, man, yeah, do you want to be an assistant manager at a hamburger stand with mustard on your shoes for a couple of years first?
Right.
No. And, well, that's good. That means there's less competition if you're willing to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would just tell them, be ready, know that up front that nobody's going to bail you out. It's all up to you, but that's a good thing.
Yeah. That's good.
So since we're talking about starting a business, do you recommend that somebody create their own or buy a franchise?
Man, that depends on you, your experience, what your dreams and goals are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefits to a franchise. It's a system that's already been proven, and somebody is going to teach you how to run it. They have buying power of the entire group. So if I was going to buy Sonic, Sonic's got 3,500 Sonics out there. They work the deals for me, or for the meat suppliers and the produce suppliers and the bread. So I get a much better price than your mom and pop because they're buying hundreds of millions of pounds of meat every year.
Right.
But I have to pay them a franchise fee, and I have to do it exactly the way they want, which is great because I want everybody to be doing that. A lot of people are like, well, they're going to tell me what to do. I'm going to sell Krabby Patties. I'm like, well, not if you're going to be a Sonic franchisee, you're not.
Right.
But if you don't really know much about business, but you want to get into business, then a franchise is a great way to go because they'll teach you everything. And then you can learn. You can spend 5 years, and then you can take that knowledge and then do something else. And
Yeah.
5 years isn't that long, and hopefully you save some money.
Yeah.
If you want to start your own business, you start garage sailing and selling stuff on eBay or something to get a feel for how that works. But if you got a great idea, starting a business yourself is great. You're either going to need somebody that knows what they're doing or somebody with a lot of money if you're not both of those.
Right.
But the best way to do it, I think, right now is to buy an existing business because there's 10,000 baby boomers getting to retirement age every day. Yeah. 19% of them own businesses, and most of their kids don't want to get into the business. So you could go to work for one of these mom and pops, and most of them don't have an exit plan. They'll work their whole lives creating a business, and then one day they'll just close the door and walk away from it.
Wow.
So I'm like, get ready to sell that business from day one. But if you could go work for them, you learn the business, you learn the in and outs, and then say, hey, let's do a year plan where I step in, and maybe they'll own or finance it for you, or maybe you can buy it at a good price. You've already got a business with built-in customers. So when you buy a business that already has built-in customers, that's huge. Because and no matter how great a Sonic is, you never know if it's going to really do well on day one.
Right.
And I've got to have 500 customers a day to break even.
Yeah.
So if I open up a new Sonic, like I say, I built the Sonic on airline. I'm like, I will never see another broke day. This is going to be the best thing ever. And that sucker lost money for the first year every month. It almost crushed me.
Oh, wow.
Because I had a Sonic 1.3 miles right down the road, and all it did was just hurt both Sonics. Yeah. So if you buy a business that already has customers and cash flow, that's why we were so attractive to sell, because they knew, oh, look at these guys. We know exactly how much they've been bringing in, what their profit is.
Yeah, the consistency of it.
Yeah.
So we're going to start a little segment right now of rapid fire questions. So just answer these as you wish. Okay. So what's your go-to Sonic drink?
It is a fresh lime squeezed Dr. Pepper.
Oh.
Wow. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, me either.
I guess you can make whatever you want to for Sonic.
You can make whatever you want,
Yeah.
man. It's
If
totally
you guys
optional.
have it, you'll throw it in the
That's
cup.
right. Until I decided I needed to lose some weight back in the late 90s. I was about 205 and very soft. I had to quit drinking Dr. Peppers.
Was it Diet Dr. Pepper?
I changed to unsweet iced tea.
Okay.
One of the very few businesses that still have fresh brewed iced tea all day. But also you can put cranberry in a Diet Coke. Amazing.
Interesting. Yeah. So you've been in this franchise world of Sonic for many years. So what's the funniest incident in your time running a Sonic that you can think about?
Man, that I can say? It is funny. I mean, every day is entertaining. I had a great group of people that I worked with. But if like a funny story, I actually made a YouTube video about it because customers are very interesting. They're very interesting. They take things very personal. So one time I was running a drive-in, my very first drive-in, and you can see out the windows just as well as you can see in. You can see out also.
Yeah.
And I'm looking out and I see this big giant black pickup truck. It's really jacked up and it's leaving the lot. And when it gets to the end, instead of going out onto the street, it cranks over over the curb, throws open the door. I see this big giant Toby Keith looking guy come out.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the bag of food in his hand and he's just like walking to the building. He's steaming. You know, he's like, this guy is mad. So I look back at my cooks in the kitchen. I say, you guys got my back? They, yeah, Mr. Paul, we got your back. And then they left. But
Out the back door.
I'm watching. I'm like, who is that? What in the world what could we have possibly done?
Right.
What'd you guys do? So he comes in, throws open the door, and he said, I said no pickles. He slammed the bag on the counter.
Wow.
And I just looked at him. I looked back at my cooks, and I said, hey, guys, give me a double cheeseburger, no pickles, please, on the rush. And I just looked at the guy, you know, and he's pacing back, and he's just fuming mad. And
Goodness.
But there's, you know, I mean, we're just all kind of looking at it. My assistant manager knows exactly what I want her to do. She writes a little coupon, says free double cheeseburger, you know, next meal, free meal deal.
No pickles.
So I walked over. Well, I walked over to him, and I said, he's kind of still. I said, you must really hate pickles.
The guy's been to counseling over pickles a lot.
He said, well, yeah, you know, this bothers me. I said, I totally understand. You know, you ordered it that way. I'm sorry. Let me show you what we can do next time. Here's a free meal on me next time you come in. He said, okay. Yeah. So finally the order comes out, and I hand it to him and say, here you go, sir. Sorry about that. And he's like, yeah, sorry about the pickle thing. You know, and he walked out. Explosion. But it just, it's always interesting to me just how irate people can get. Mm-hmm. But I always tell my folks, I'm like, you know, that guy might have no telling what's going on. Yeah. So, you know, most people would blow up back to him. So, I know you didn't just slam that down on my can. You better go out and come back in and ask nice for the. Right. I got no time for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was able to show my employees, one, you know, I really do what I preach, give them whatever they want. And two, if I'd have fought with them, then all my employees would have said, they would always wonder which customer do I fight with? Right. And I always say, don't fight with anybody. Just say, I'm so sorry about that. Let me fix it. And look, even this crazy big dude, you could make him go away happy. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, funny. There's a lot of stories of people coming in late at night with things that you didn't want to see in a Sonic. I can only imagine. So that was the whole 45 seconds of our quick deal. There you go. But you can keep asking. This is fun.
Okay, so if you had to sum up your Sonic entrepreneurial journey in one word, what would it be?
Let's see, 40 years broke, grow, business, kids, sell the whole thing, land building, millions of dollars, blah, blah. Inconceivable. There you go. If you know, you know. You know, that's a good movie. Everyone's seen that movie? That's good. Yes. I guess I have a better one. What would be a better word? Achievable.
So kind of a behind the scenes, since you've been doing, you shifted out of Sonic, now you're doing what we're doing here. Is you also have your own podcast that you do and doing the videos and so. What's kind of a behind the scenes, maybe a funny moment as you were getting into this, or something that may have happened for you in the podcasting, social media world?
Man, there are so many bloopers every time I do anything. Yeah. But I mean, the funniest thing to me is how people will get angry about anything. And comments. The comments are unbelievable. I mean, when somebody first commented a really bad comment on one of my Sonic Guy videos, I'm like, I've made it. Somebody says, you dumb effing Sonic manager. Wow. No way that order came out into an app. You know? Yeah. So what's funny to me is I will try to put a twist in every video that people can argue about. And it used to, like, at first I was like, oh, this guy just doesn't understand. Let me go and explain it to him. But I'm trying to give a big concept in 60 seconds on a short. Yeah. And people will fight with each other. I've got one about 5 reasons I would never buy a Chick-fil-A. Yeah. And because everyone said, Paul, you sold your Sonic, you need to buy a Chick-fil-A. They're huge. I'm like, well, And so I explained it in a video.
Yeah.
Well, people either love Chick-fil-A or hate Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So I'm either a horrible person for not giving the reason that because they're bigots should have been your number one reason, or you're talking bad about Chick-fil-A, they wouldn't hire you because you suck. So
Yeah, shame on you.
and that video has got almost 1 million views on TikTok.
Yeah.
And hundreds of thousands of views across these other things just because it's Chick-fil-A, but you put one little twist in there.
Yeah.
And so the funniest thing to me is just I'm specifically trying to find something that I can put in that makes people argue about the video.
Yeah. Poke the bear.
love
And then
that.
Poke the bear just a little bit. And you just have to really, sometimes I'm like, golly, they're so mean. It's a 1-minute video. I didn't know YouTube was for preschoolers. I'm like, well, it's a simple
Wow.
concept,
Yeah.
But anyway,
Wow.
that's funny to me. It's funny to me that you could say, we have finally cured cancer for kittens. And someone's going to say, what about the kids? I mean, come on.
This guy hates
Yeah.
dogs.
Yep.
Yeah, this guy. Anyway, it's crazy.
So, are there any secret Sonic menu items, or like any tips or tricks when you're ordering?
So I have to be careful about this because people always want to know about the secret menu. And they say there's a secret menu at Sonic. The problem is Sonic's menu is so big.
Yeah.
We can barely teach
Sure.
people the actual menu. And
You
you
could
got
order
so
something on
much
the menu.
Yeah, you can order something on the menu and we don't know what it
Yep.
is. So I would rather tell you just things you can do.
Okay.
Like for one, you
We'll take
said
that.
fresh squeezed lime.
Yeah.
You can put fresh squeezed lime in anything. It's fantastic in a Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
You can add chili, jalapenos, anything to your order. I mean, the best thing there is a Sonic double cheeseburger. Add bacon, chili, and jalapenos. You can just add things and build your own stuff. But as far as the secret menu, and get ice. Buy a bag of ice. People are addicted to our ice.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can buy ice. So I'm telling you things that will help the guest and also help the Sonic people.
Yeah.
That I no longer have any affiliation with. So, but if you try to order off a secret menu, people come up with these crazy things. So there's this one thing called a purple Sprite.
Okay.
You familiar with the purple Sprite? I don't even know what's in it. Posey, you know what it is? So it's Sprite, and you add, I don't even remember what all it was, like lemonade, Powerade, a couple other aids. You put it in it, and it looks purple, and it tastes good. It's got a good tang. Well, the reason they call it a purple Sprite now is because they used to call it a purple O.
Okay.
And the reason they called it a purple O was because they were trying to get people to call it a purple word that starts with O and rhymes with
Gotcha.
grasm. And the people in Alabama, my Alabama stores, people ordered that so much that we had to make it up in a separate jar so we could just pump it into the Sprites.
Wow.
But people come up with these things and they think it's so funny. And then the little old lady next to them is like, "What did he say?" And then, but the biggest problem is people inside the drive-in when someone orders that, and then they scream across the room, "What's a purple?" And they're, I don't know. So don't try to order a secret menu.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what it. They can barely get the regular menu out. If
Right.
you want something specific, though, you can tell them what you want.
If you have it on the menu, they'll put it
Yeah.
together
They'll add it
for
on.
you.
They'll add it on. Figure it out.
That's good. What kind of
Oh,
trick?
I'll tell you the other thing. Use the app. Sonic is still just trying to drive people to the app.
Okay.
So you can get happy hour, which is half price drinks, all day long, any time of day, if you order on the app. So many people drive up and they'll remember once they get there and they'll order on the app from their car. But if you order on the app, it's half price. Also, they come up with a new item every month because they want to drive new traffic. So it's a new item every month. So they'll start practicing serving that item about 3 days before the end of the month, just so the people in the drive-in start getting practice using it. They'll put up the marketing outside, and then a lot of times they'll push that on the app with a special buy one get one free or something like that. So go like the last day of the month and
Nice.
look on your app, and it'll give you usually give you a special.
Sweet.
There you go.
Good
Hey,
to
that's
know.
the worth the price of
Yeah.
Yeah.
having me up here.
Well, I mean, like I would.
My
My next
cup
question.
of coffee and my Sonic Guy mug.
My next question's about advice, but I feel like that was some great
That
advice
was
there. So, best piece of advice for that you'd give to someone maybe today that to leave our audience, those who may be listening, what would you say? Some advice that somebody maybe they gave to you that you'd like to pass on. What would that be?
Let's see. So I would say the best leadership technique is influence. John Maxwell's famous
Yeah.
thing. Leadership is just influence. And the best way to influence people is to make them feel good. So people won't remember what you say, but they always remember how you make them feel.
Absolutely.
So always leave people feeling better than they did when you got together.
Yeah.
Because you never know. I always say that, I think Mother Teresa, it's been attributed to 1,000 smart people, but, everyone's going through a trouble you don't know about.
Right.
So, treat everyone nicer than is necessary.
Yeah.
And that's just worked for me. I've got so many great connections, so many great opportunities. I don't know how we got on here. Somebody that I was nice to told you I'd be good.
Yeah.
What does he talk about? I don't know. He seems like he's a nice guy, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
Be nicer than necessary.
I like it.
That's great.
Thanks for giving us a little sneak peek, both in your story, also the little rapid fire questions. We appreciate it.
Sure, man. Come check out the YouTube channel, though, and leave comments and tell me what you want me to do. So I've got 2 videos that'll be coming out soon. One, I did Bojack's and got their whole story, and also learned about a lot of techniques about how they save money and how they do their food costs, but also the cool story. And then I just did one at Jacqueline's with Grant Knuckles, and found out why he bought that business and how they did it. So that's kind of where I'm leaning to. I'll do short videos like what I do when an employee's late for work.
Yeah.
But the fun thing, and what I'm really starting to do now, I'm going to go visit these other businesses and get their secrets.
Love it.
That's cool. So speaking of Business Reel, we want to give a special thank you to our sponsors today, Business Reel and B-Lane Printed Apparel.
Yeah, it's been a great time spending with Paul today, and Paul's going to stick around for a few minutes just to have a little fun discussion with our Patreon Inner Circle. That is our behind-the-scenes talks. If you're interested in being part of that, you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/The Uncommon Success Podcast, and for $7 a month, or what Brinley calls a cup of coffee a day, you can have that for a month, $7, and you can get that exclusive content behind the scenes. It's great discussion. You don't want to miss out. And each month we lay out our guest of who's going to be joining us for the month. So special just for our Patreon Inner Circle members.
Also, be sure to follow us on all of our platforms, Apple and Spotify and YouTube. You can also join us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, review, and leave us comments.
Yeah, I guess good and bad. I'm learning now that it's
Yeah.
good and bad comments, right?
Bad
Just-
comments are the
hot.
best.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff to
Yeah.
read. Yeah, and special thanks, I guess, to both of you today. Paul, for being with us today as a special guest, and Shana, thanks for taking over for Brinley
Yeah,
for the
thanks
day.
for having me.
And this has gone so well. We may just not tell her about next week.
Kick her out
She's like, what time are you
permanently.
recording? We're not
We're
recording
not
this week. Yeah.
anymore.
I was thinking I did. So I'm one and done. I need to think of something just outrageous to do on my way out.
On your way out.
I'm done anyway. Maybe you'll have me back in your 100th episode.
There we go. Well, join us next week as we discuss the topic of overcoming fear and taking risk.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Have a great week, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Uncommon Success Podcast, where your commitment to growth fuels our passion to create more content. Special thanks to our executive producer, Jess Camp, and our technical director, Stephen Posey. We're excited about our episode next week and hope you would tune in to join us as we work together to continue our journey towards success. See you next time. Have a great week.